How's it going, you sexy beasts? Today's Friday and it's time for another round of the fan-picked Friday Challenge. Last week's episode was such a resounding success and I got a ton of class setup suggestions that I was practically overwhelmed. Remember that for next week's video, go ahead and drop a comment in the section below saying what weapon setup, attachment, abilities, or anything else that you can imagine that you would like to see me try out. This week's challenge was indeed rather difficult, and it comes from Rolfski. He says, "Let me see if you can make battle rifles work with this AV sniper loadout. Engineer, AV turret, Empire specific battle rifle with a 4x scope, compensator, high velocity ammunition, and a forward grip. Underboss with a laser sight, medical kit, AP mines, and frag grenades. Crash your ESF on top of a cliff, and happy hunting." So right from the get-go, I'm pretty sure I already messed up this class setup. Assuming AP mines meant anti-personnel, I picked up the bouncing Bettys, and since I've got the Bettys, I wasn't able to get a medical kit. Also, I think chilling on top of a cliff would look for some rather boring footage for you guys, so I decided just to see how well I could do with this with my standard gameplay playstyle of firefights. And before we get into the statistics of each weapon, I want to go off on a rant about how battle rifles are implemented in this game. First off, they deal 250 damage maximum, which translates to a 4 bullet kill at close range, since players have 1000 effective health. Now let's throw in Nano Weave into the mix. Just one rank increases your effective health to 1050, meaning you'll need to land another shot from your battle rifle to kill an enemy. That's all fine and dandy for the faster firing weapons, but for a 333 round per minute fire rate weapon, a 5 bullet kill is pretty much awful. This is assuming if you're within the 8 meter maximum damage range. Anything out of 8 meters means you're falling off to a 6 bullet kill with Nano Weave, and an even 8 bullet kill if the player is using the 5th rank of Nano Weave and they're out at maximum distance. As for the fire rate, the maximum fire rate is 333 rounds per minute. It's essentially a very high skill ceiling, meaning if you click your mouse way too fast or far too slow, you're never going to reach that 333 rounds per minute fire rate sweet spot. It's essentially a problem with semi-automatic weaponry as opposed to just holding down the trigger. So essentially, this weapon is rather worthless for both short range and long range engagements, and then it's pretty mediocre for medium range that it's designed for. With having said that, I'm no math guru or weapons balance expert, but I think the fire rate needs to be dropped down to 275 rounds per minute and the maximum damage ramped up to 334 damage per shot with a minimum damage of the still 200. This would give the damage model a 3-hit kill on anyone without Nano Weave within 8 meters and the normal damage model out at further distance. So enough of my rant, let's go ahead and step into the stats of the Warden, Eidolon, and AMR-66 battle rifles. These deal 250 damage maximum at up to 8 meters and fall off to 200 damage minimum at 65 meters. They fire at a rate of 333 rounds per minute, have a 20 round magazine with 100 in the reserve, a short reload speed of 2.5 seconds, and a long reload speed of 3.5 seconds. Vertical recoil is 0.6 degrees per shot and has a horizontal drift bias to the right. The muzzle velocity is 500 meters per second, which is actually pretty pathetic due to this weapon needing a good muzzle velocity when other weapons like the Vanu's SVA-88 LMG shoots at upwards of 600 meters per second, and so do the New Conglomerate's Gauss rifle and the Terran Republic's TMG-50. So those damage numbers, coupled with the potential of enemies having Nano Weave, under or over firing your battle rifle, and the cone of fire bloom per shot while aiming, seems to utterly destroy this weapon. It's awful at close quarters and horrible at long range, but then we get to medium range, which is what it's designed for, and it's pretty lackluster. That doesn't mean it's fun to try and use this competitively though. The last time I used a battle rifle was very early launch of the game, where not everyone was picking up Nano Weave armor, and it was a beast to use. But now, that all changed when the Nano Weave Nation invaded. Using this weapon, you have to go for the headshots in order to make this weapon truly shine. I was getting my butt kicked rather frequently since I'm so accustomed to 750 round per minute fire rate weaponry, and shifting the battle rifle was a pretty big jump. In order to play well with battle rifles, find out where the line of battle is occurring and try to get a good eye on it while hanging further toward the back. playing with the battle rifle is more of a support role rather than all out getting super awesome kill streaks with it. Think of yourself more so as an infiltrator sniper, but you've got an ammo pack and you're not afraid to shed a few bullets. One final note about the battle rifle: if you're using a 3.4 times or 4 times scope, then I highly suggest you step into the virtual reality training arena to get a feel for the sensitivity if you're accustomed to reflex sights alone. Since I normally run a reflex, the 4 times scope on this rifle was very foreign to me, and I was having a really hard time tracking targets. It took me a while to finally get a hold of the magnified recoil, as well as the ease of target spotting since I'd be so up close on the scope. Now for this challenge, I had never used the underboss before. Ever since I picked up the Commissioner, I had never looked back at any other secondary weapon save for the Terran's Repeater, solely because that thing is way too good to pass up. After having used the underboss though, I feel as if it complements this class setup perfectly, as the increased fire rate is a fantastic aspect to hold while navigating through tighter quarters where your battle rifle would easily get outgunned by other weaponry. The very fast fire rate and reload of the underboss, coupled with the damage potential, is just awesome all around. I can say the same thing about the bouncing Bettys, as I've never really used them a lot before this challenge. After having maxed the certification, I found that holding up in a building or cutting off any entry routes was rather effective at keeping myself alive. If the unsuspecting victim were to walk through a doorway, they'd get blown up and sent to the respawn screen, and if they had flak armor, I would usually hear it and be alerted to their presence. Also, their shields would be down, and they'd be quickly mopped up. Best reason for them I found was placing them on the sides of a rock where you'd use it for cover, and if enemies noticed you firing from an elevated position and attempted to flank you, they'd be met with an explosion to the face. As for the flak armor, I can't really imagine an engineer not using it. Especially when loaded up with a medium range weapon, there were far too many times when ESF would try and pick me out of the crowd and try to farm me with their rocket pods. Thankfully, like a good neighbor, flak armor was there. I don't quite have my certs maxed for it, but the 39% and potential 50% reduced explosion damage is enough for me to equip it. That, and coupled with the fact that proximity mines will no longer one-shot you, is a pretty good aspect to equip it all as well. All in all, this setup was a very fun challenge, but I really hope that battle rifles get a good balance pass here soon, since they are extremely lackluster. Thank you, Rolfski, for submitting this challenge, and if you guys would like to see me run with a setup next week, go ahead and post in the comment section below. I'll pick one of the most upvoted comments for next week's episode. So thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big ass thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then go ahead and subscribe. It's free.